Hello, everybody. Welcome back to episode 2 of my Americana Through the Decades series. I'm going to tackle the 1970s today. Thank you for the response from the 60s. It's been very good to see the comments and to have people's opinions, throwing in artists that I didn't think of or didn't have access to. So thank you all for that. Thank you in advance for everybody that's going to comment on this. I appreciate it. If you don't comment, I appreciate you watching. If you don't watch, great. This is an episode I'm going to talk about the 70s. This is kind of where really a lot of what we know as Americana really starts kicking off. A lot of these artists are still alive, still performing, and still acting as, kind of the elders of the Americana scene now. So, unlike the previous video, I'm kind of going through this more in sections versus chronologically. So somebody that if you're new to my channel, you've never heard me talk about it, but if you're not new, I talk about this guy all the time, and that is John Prine. This is his debut album, I believe, from 1971. Prine was a mailman from Chicago, the Chicago area, playing in the bars and the coffee shops. He was actually discovered kind of by Chris Christopherson, who I will talk about here in a second. But Prime was a mailman writing songs, beautiful songs, a lot of which ended up on this album, which is pretty much the gateway album that you need to get into Prime. Songs like Paradise, Sam Stone, Angel from Montgomery, Illegal Smile, Donald and Lydia, Hello in There. So many songs that Prime played really every concert of his career. This is the album that started it. What makes it Americana is the fact that, again, you can't really pigeonhole Prine into a category. He's got these songs about middle class people. He's from Chicago, but almost has a drawl to his voice, and is playing all these beautiful acoustic type tunes, again, that have a little bit deeper meaning than what it looks like on the surface. Songs like Paradise is really about environmentalism and protecting land that is precious. And Donald and Lydia is really a song about a soldier who's off to war, misses his loved ones, and really has just memories to go on. So John Prine, again, a mainstay in the Americana genre. And again, he kind of became the archetype of so many artists' styles of music. You look at artists like Margot Price, Sturgill Simpson, Jason Isbell. They all point to John Prine as a high influence. So John Prine kick starts us off here. Some other artists, again, this is kind of in the same vein, I would say, as that. I mentioned this gentleman in the last video, but had to show an actual record. Well, show an actual record here. This is Grievous Angel from 1974. Graham Parsons, obviously, one-time member of the Byrds, founding member of the Flying Burrito Brothers. This is an album that he did essentially as a duets album with Emmylou Harris, and he's bringing in, again, that kind of cosmic cowboy terminology that we hear about, where he's this guy, kind of based in the West, the California, LA scene, and is really, singing country tunes. And again, you can look at any of Graham's albums. This is the one that I had. Songs like Return of the Grievous Angel that he wrote, Brass Buttons, Hickory Wind, which is a tune that he did with the Byrds, obviously, Cash on the Barrelhead. They do Love Hurts. Just a really, really solid record of those kind of country ballads and country rock songs. Again, big time influence on artists today. And one of those kind of stories, one of those great partnerships between him and Emmylou Harris, who I will go ahead and talk about now. Emmylou, who's still out there doing her thing. Let's take this out. It's a bad glare. Emmylou is still out there doing her thing. This is what's it called? Pieces of the Sky. I have a couple of her records. This is from 1975. Gorgeous voice, great harmony. She would obviously do albums for years and years, and again, she's still active. She's still out there. had a couple of albums with Dolly Parton and Linda Ronstadt, both of whom I could have talked about as well. But great interpreter of songs. She wrote some songs too, but great interpreter of songs. She did The Bottle Let Me Down, the Merle Haggard tune. She does Sleepless Night by Brian and Bryant. Coat of Many Colors, Dolly Parton. She does If I Could Only Win Your Love, which is kind of a minor hit for her it was the Louvin Brothers tune. Really, really good stuff. Again, she was singing harmony on all sorts of records at the time. She was, again, doing duets with Graham Parsons. She was showing up on records. She played on Desire with Bob Dylan in, what was that, 75. So, Emmylou Harris, you can't talk about Americana without talking Emmylou. Again, she is somebody who a lot of female artists today look at as an inspiration. She's somebody who always was willing to speak her mind, both musically and politically. She's still, again, doing that. I got to see her probably about 9 years ago, and she's still very much active in promoting causes that she cares deeply for. And again, that's kind of one of those big things in Americana is the music itself promotes ideas that these artists want to get across. They're oftentimes political in nature. They're oftentimes involving just social justice, that sort of thing. And again, Emmylou is a key player in that. So Emmylou Harris. And then again, to kind of round out our country elements of Americana, I picked this album. This is Willie Nelson from 1979. This is Willie Nelson sings Christofferson. Obviously, Chris Christofferson, a longtime buddy of Willie, fellow member of the Highwaymen. Both of them, had so many great songs. At this point, they were both pretty established. Especially Willie was well established in his career. But Willie Nelson, again, taking the outlaw style of country. Now, again, I'm not saying necessarily that Willie Nelson is Americana. I'm saying that the stuff that he was putting out there is the stuff that's inspired the Americana that we know in 2026. But again, you take Willie, he's not out there singing, I Saw the Light, Hank Williams, which is, a traditional country tune. He's out there singing stuff like, Help Me Make It Through the Night, the Chris Christofferson tune. He's doing, these beautiful, like, story kind of albums like Redheaded Stranger. He's doing interpretations of stuff that's outside of the realm of what he's used to. He's doing Stardust. He's singing all these crooner songs, really before that was a thing in mainstream music. Willie, again, very active in causes and, promoting things like Farm Aid, which is a thing that he would come up with in the 80s, promoting the importance of farmers and buying local products and supporting these people that are not part of a larger conglomeration. Big advocate in that. And Christofferson was as well. Again, Christofferson probably even falls more into the Americana line than Willie Nelson does. But yeah, just, again, fantastic stuff. Willie is an icon. He's still out there doing it. And again, has taken on under his wing so many new Americana artists. Again, I mentioned Margot Price. He's taken on Nathaniel Rateliff, Sturgill Simpson, again, Jason Isbell. His son Lucas Nelson is big in the Americana scene now. Sierra Farrell. All these people definitely owe a lot of gratitude to this man right here, Mr. Willie Nelson, and the songs that he put out, which I love Willie. And he's still going strong. Usually puts out about an album a year, even in his 90s. So I'm going to go from there and then kind of do this transition here to, there's your kind of more country style music in terms of, you think of Willie Nelson, you think Emmylou Harris, you think country. Even John Prine was a member of the Academy of Country Music to an extent. But anyway, let's move now from that area to the Los Angeles sound, the LA sound, the San Francisco sound, the melding of these two worlds of, you have the American South going out west, going to the Pacific, and how the type of root music that's being formed is really showing itself across the land. So I think a couple of good bridge points here. I'm going to start with this guy right here, Mr. Michael Nesmith, and this is his first official true solo album. There's technically one before it, but this is really his first vocal record with new original tunes. This is Mike Nesmith and the First National Band. This is Magnetic South. This would be one of 3 albums that Nesmith would put out in the early 1970s. This is from 70. Kind of one of the early archetypes of country rock, of the stuff that we would know, later as stuff like, stuff that would turn into, Ryan Adams, Whiskey Town, all that stuff. That was all being formed because of these artists, these California kind of based artists. Now with Nez, obviously he was a member of the Monkees, bought out his contract and wanted to do the music he wanted to do. So he put out a bunch of albums in his life until he passed. And those first 4 especially are very much in the country rock vein. And again, it's got this kind of almost a psychedelic feel to it with the steel guitar playing of O.J. Red Rhodes, playing these leads that are like, Jimi Hendrix kind of stuff, but it's got this, eerie kind of psychedelic feel to it. It's not just twangy steel guitars here. But listen to this song, Calico Girlfriend or 9 Times Blue. Just very much, Calico Girlfriend has that cosmic sound. 9 Times Blue is more of a traditional kind of soft ballad. But then he does like a bluesy kind of tune with Little Red Rider, kind of a experimental stuff with Hollywood and Beyond the Blue Horizon. A beautiful ballad called Joanne. Again, it's that feel. It's not necessarily a genre per se as much as it is a feeling. You kind of know it when you hear it, and Nesmith really kind of takes that sound and was working on crafting it. And again, I think he does a great job. All right, now this is from my buddy Glenn here, Glenn Kellaway. This is an album that would reshape so many different artists. This would reshape what we thought of as country, as old-time music, as bluegrass, whatever you want to call it. This is one of those big moments that helped define what we know as Americana. It was a massive record when it came out, 1972. This is the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band's Will the Circle Be Unbroken. If you don't know this album, and if you like that kind of country, old-time music mixed with like the kind of, not really rock, but this idea of, old meets new kind of feel. This is what this album is. You have the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band who, had songs like Mr. Bojangles. They would have a big hit with the song Fishing in the Dark. Again, these LA kind of country rock guys that were doing Michael Nesmith tunes on their albums. They did the song Some of Shelley's Blues. They were in touch with what was cool. They were young guys doing old type music, and that's what kind of made this whole thing that we know as Americana work. But they have this album right here, which had a bunch of old stars from the Grand Ole Opry's heyday. You've got Mother Maybelle Carter on here. You've got Doc Watson. You've got Roy Acuff. You've got Merle Travis. You have, who is it? What's his name? Obviously you have Earl Scruggs. You have Jimmy Martin. That's who it was. And then all these great, artists who played on so many tunes. Norman Blake, Vassar Clements. All of these different artists doing these songs. They were doing songs like the Grand Ole Opry song. They were doing the Wabash Cannonball, Tennessee Stud. Then they were doing, their own stuff on here. They would go on to make several of these albums in the series. They had another album in the 80s, which was a bigger hit, which again kind of followed along the same lines as this, except with more contemporary artists of that time. But Will the Circle Be Unbroken? Monumental in the world of Americana. Again, you got the old guys, these old Southern guys that didn't know what to make of, John McEwen, Jeff Hanna, Jimmy Ibbotson, all these guys who were the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, and then they put out this thing, and man, oh man, is it good! It is so good. This is to me, if I were to define Americana, this could very well be the album that I would give somebody to say, this is Americana. Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, Will the Circle Be Unbroken? Again, keeping in line with the California sound. Again, not necessarily Americana, but it's the feel, it's the expansion of what was becoming popular in the world. Again, you've got to talk about Crosby, Stills, and Nash. This is a live album from 1974, but I could have shown any album. Obviously, they had their big debut, their self-titled, in was it 1969? Then they would go on to do Deja Vu with Neil Young, and then they were playing at Woodstock. You've got these two American guys. You have Graham Nash from England and Neil Young from Canada doing these songs that are just full of harmony. They're full of, again, social commentary. They're singing about things that are important, that are still important to hear about. But they were doing it all with, a lot of acoustic instruments. Listen to the song Ohio. Listen to the song Sing the Changes, or some of it's from the 60s, but listen to the song Carry On or something like that. Almost Cut My Hair, which is from 69. But they were really hitting it off in the 70s. Again, they're playing these massive baseball stadiums, football stadiums, and fantastic stuff. Again, harmonies, acoustic instruments, playing songs that they were drawing from the UK. They were drawing from American and Canadian experiences. Just so many different styles that Crosby, Stills, and Nash tackled. You can't pigeonhole him into one particular genre, but definitely an influence in the Americana world. Look at a group like the Milk Carton Kids. Any of these people that are harmony-based singers in an acoustic setting, they have CSNY to thank. They also could thank these guys right here. This is the Eagles. Again, I could have picked any of their albums. This is their self-titled debut. Again, guys out of California. You've got country rock, you've got harmony, you've got folk, you've got rock. The Eagles are one of those groups I remember as a kid never really knowing where to put them. Never really knew where to put them. You could play a song like Take It Easy on country station. You could do a song like One of These Nights or Witchy Woman on the rock station. But then they have a beautiful song on here, Train Leaves Here This Morning, which was written by Bernie Leadon of the Eagles, as well as Gene Clark, who I mentioned in another video with Dillard and Clark. Fantastic stuff. Again, a little bit maybe more polished than Americana is, but again, it was part of that ever-changing scene that was happening at the time. It was part of a movement of music is changing from psychedelic to being harmony-based, to being focused on songs, to being about messages. Not saying that there weren't messages in the psychedelic world. Obviously, there's a lot of anti-war, protest kind of music in that era. But again, it was really becoming about the songwriter. The songwriter was king in the 70s. Again, you take artists like, the Eagles with Don Henley and Glenn Frey. You take Carole King. You take James Taylor. Any of these people that were writing songs and then presenting them to the public. That's what they needed in the 70s. And that's what the 70s were really all about. So the Eagles, again, big in the California scene. Mentioned the Take It Easy already, so I might as well mention this guy. Jackson Browne, again, same kind of deal. Writing gorgeous tunes, writing some of the best heartbreaking ballads you've ever heard. Jackson Browne. Hanging out with Glenn Frey and Don Henley in California. Doing these beautiful songs. Obviously, pop hits like Doctor My Eyes. But then these songs like Song for Adam, Jamaica Say You Will. He was also briefly a member of the Nitty Gritty Dirt Band, and they do a version of Jamaica Say You Will. Just a gorgeous, gorgeous tune. Again, writing these songs that are like, they're catchy, but a lot of them are also deeper than that. They have this feel to it. And again, you can't pigeonhole where you put Jackson Browne. Is he country? Not really. Is he rock? No, he doesn't really rock out that much. Sure, he's a singer-songwriter, and you can say, whatever that means. That's not really a genre. But Jackson Browne, again, part of that big movement of roots music. And then lastly, I'm going to end with this. Part of this is in tribute to Bob Weir, who we just lost. But again, changes were happening in the world, and the Grateful Dead were on top of it. This is their album American Beauty from 1970. A lot of people consider this their best album. I haven't heard all their albums, but of the albums that I know, this is my favorite for sure. Again, you've got still the original members of the Grateful Dead here. Gorgeous acoustic tunes. This is kind of like an acoustic country album. They were hanging out with Crosby, Stills, and Nash at the time, helping each other with harmonies and instrumentation. So they were helping each other out. Everybody was hanging out with each other. It was very incestuous in that sense. But you take songs on here like Sugar Magnolia. You take songs like Ripple, Addicts of My Life, Friend of the Devil, which is purely a folk record with David Grisman on mandolin. He's on here. Broke Down Palace. Again, they're just taking these songs, this country kind of stuff. They're hanging out. They're hearing what the band is doing. They're hearing what Bob Dylan's doing. Crosby, Stills, and Nash. They're more than aware of what's going on in music, and they are checking it out for sure. So American Beauty. They also had the album Working Man's Dead, obviously, and then the Dead obviously had all sorts of elements of bluegrass and country songs in their set during their whole career because of Jerry Garcia's background in bluegrass. So the Dead were kind of hanging out in that world, again, taking songs from, they're a popular band. They were a psychedelic band out of the 60s, and then they take an album like this and make it, and it's like, whoa, these guys are versatile. They can really do more than just 30-minute jams on Dark Star. But American Beauty by the Grateful Dead, a key example of early Americana in my eyes. So again, there you go, folks. There's the 1970s. I hope you enjoyed it. There's a lot to unpack here, and again, I hope it was enjoyable for you. Please comment below. Let me know what you're thinking of the series. Let me know some other artists that I didn't talk about, or maybe you don't agree with half these people. But I'm open to discussion in the comments, and I'd appreciate it. So again, thank you all for supporting so far. Let's see if the 80s happens, and I'll check out some albums to see what the 1980s had in store. So that does it for me. In the meantime, y'all be good, take care, and we will see you on the next one.